free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening. My name is Steve Wraith and I'm a Newcastle United fan. Mitch.
Good evening, Steve. My name is Mitch and I am a Newcastle United fan.
Steve.
Evening, Steve and Mitch. My name's Steve and I'm a Newcastle United fan.
And George.
Hello, Steve, Mitch and Steve. I'm George, and I'm a bloody Newcastle fanatic.
Welcome to NUFC Matters, the three amigos, the perfect way to vent your spleen in a sensible way and have a bit of therapy as well. What a week. That was the week that was. And there's plenty more to go until the 1st of September. Where's the fire? Well, we're here to put the fire out in the best way we can with a bit of humour, a bit of insight and no speculation at all. Welcome to NUFC Matters. If you're coming in for the first time, it is great. And as Dave says, I'm George and I'm a CBE. You're the middle of it down, George, in the middle of it down. You should wear it around your neck every time you're on. Anyway, give it a bit of use. What a week that's been, honest to God. And it continues. The madness around Newcastle United and clickbait continues. And before we get into that, Mitch, Simon, first of all, did email us from San Diego, a message, on X, to tell us that he's finally managed to get a bit of resolve from Newcastle United. They finally sent him the long sleeve shirt, which he was requiring, which is good news. So hopefully we played a little part in helping you, Simon, and your persistence certainly paid off. But what Simon wants is the details on your T-shirt, Mitch.
It's one of the originals T-shirts. It's front is this, back. Don't worry, I haven't got the smugglers on. You're all right.
Good.
Same on the back.
Excellent.
It's proper high-end originals quality cotton.
Yeah.
Really nicely done. It's part of the drop that should be coming, but for some reason, it's been on the Adidas UAE website for purchase all week this week. So I thought, sod it, I'm going to have one.
Excellent. Well, there we go.
There you go.
That is good news. I've been into the club shop myself. It's not going to be coming out until the season starts, apparently, the Adidas original stuff over here. Clearly, they've got the other shirt to come out as well.
Heard today that it's also available in Australia at the minute.
Oh, there we go. I mean, I can wait. I've spent too much as it is, but happy days. Good stuff. That looks really nice. And there you go.
It is real quality. It's right sized as well. It's not oversized. It's just dot on. Really nice piece of kit.
Lovely. Yes, me too, Denise. Might see you there. Looking forward to tomorrow, first game of the season for us who are lucky enough to get away on the road. It's going to be an amazing amount of Newcastle fans in Glasgow tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Weather didn't look so good, mind Denise. I would take a hoodie. Okay, yes, I have spent me. Have I spent my yearly clothing allowance, Gary? I'd probably say I have on that and the Adidas original stuff that's come out with Oasis, which, by the way, was an absolutely brilliant gig. I know I mentioned it last night, but superb. Everything I was hoping for and more. It's the new Oasis. It's not the old Oasis, who, of course, I did see myself, old enough to have been able to do that. But the new Oasis was very good, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay. Yeah, let's get on to the football. The week has been hilarious in my mind. I know there's some people in the chat saying it's been stressful and it's been this and it's been that. My social media has literally been, I've been putting stuff out, really just trying to calm people's nerves and hopefully to see get people's confidence back up. It's going to be a good window. It's going to be a good window. We are still going to bring players in. And you know what, from my perspective, Darren, it's going to be a good window. How can you say it's going to be a bad window and say that I'm patronising supporters when the window doesn't close till the 1st of September? You cannot say that it's a bad window until the window closes. Like Stu said, like Mitch has said, I don't get much chance to speak on here other than doing me 1 hour chat. If on the 1st of September, what we've done is let Callum Wilson go and Sean Longstaff go and bring in Alanga, that's a bad window. But we'll have done a lot more than that. So it's not patronising. It's stating facts. I will not be happy on the 1st of September if that's all that's happened. Mitch, it has been a mad week. What do you make of it? What have you made of it? What in your mindset was that all about this week? Just the media, Newcastle, what?
Go back to a musical reference to quote Swedish post-punk band The Hives. I do believe I told you so.
Yes.
This, we're now seeing everything play out. Who the bad faith actors are, who the paid actors are, how the press manipulate which reporters they get to write which reports. If you notice, Craig Hope's been given very little at the Mail, and half the stuff's been written by their Liverpool beat lads, and all of them are Liverpool fans. Funnily.
I thought Craig must have been on holiday and there's been that little from him.
I think he's been throttled, mate. I think there's something really weird going on there, but it's not the first time I've heard this. We're seeing who is being fed to and where they're being fed from. We're seeing how some of the clubs and the agents work. Let's not forget, Eintracht Frankfurt and Liverpool had a player development agreement between them not that long ago, and they had players going back and forth between the under-23s and under-21s. Is it any wonder how things then suddenly get very cosy between them two? Who's been speaking to who and what and where? Or have we just played an absolute blinder and suckered them in and made them push all their chips into the centre of the table when actually we're bluffing? I'd love to think that's the case. I'm not convinced it is necessarily, but to describe it as a power play, give us our number one choice or we'll have to settle for our second choice. Okay then. That's a power play, is it? And they're actually paying, probably, they're going to end up paying more than they would have done if they just approached Frankfurt first and directly. They've been scared into doing it. And it suddenly seems to have kicked Man United into paying a ridiculous amount of money for Mbeumo, or putting a ridiculous amount of money on the table for Mbeumo. So I think we're playing a blinder, personally. I think what we're doing is just standing up for ourselves. And what comes out of it all, it's quite interesting. I had an interesting chat today. I've not had a chance to speak to you lads about this yet, with a lad who's a patient of mine who's involved with the Spurs Supporters Club over here. And he gave me a very different perspective, and I hadn't thought of this. He says, welcome to what they did to us for 5 years with Harry Kane. He said, every summer, start the summer, Harry Kane deserves better. Harry Kane needs to be winning things. He should be at Man United. He should be at Liverpool. He should be at Arsenal. He should be here. He should be there. All the way through the summer, Arsenal are preparing a bid. Liverpool have made direct contact with the club. Nothing happened. And he said, and then eventually when his contract ran down and he went to Bayern Munich, some of the journalists who were saying he should be doing this and he should be doing that, turned around and basically say, oh, he's finished, he's off to Germany and he shouldn't be in the England squad anyway because he's crap. And he says, we've had all of that for 5 years And then that's what half of them turned around and did when he eventually did leave the club. And he says, this is what they're doing with you and Isaac. Right now, I see exactly this game. It's exactly what we saw and what we went through. And there's nothing you can do about it because they've got their agendas and the paid actors play things out the way they do. And it's exactly as we called it a couple of weeks ago. And this is why we've got to be tougher than we are. I have been a little annoyed at how some of our supporters have reacted. I would hate to be in the trenches with some of them. It's over. It's, oh my God, it's the end. Show some spine. Are we? You know, we're better than that. We're better than that as a fan base, and we're better than that as a club. But I genuinely, see where it's all going, and I'm just genuinely not surprised. And if you want an even more damning example of what they're doing, Wyn Davies passed away, and the Daily Mail writer who was put on to write that piece is a Man United fan, so wrote a piece about Man United legend Wyn Davies. And that's not just an insult to Newcastle United, that's an insult to Bolton Wanderers, the two clubs where he was really firmly associated with in his career. Not Man United, not Man City even. He barely played 3 seasons between those two clubs. Bolton Wanderers, Man United, Newcastle United, they're the two clubs that you should be talking about when you're writing about Wyn Davies, not Man United great Wyn Davies. There's people who probably don't know where Old Trafford is on a map, wouldn't even begin to tell you who Wyn Davies was. And that's an insult of an article, but typical of the media and typical of what they're doing at the minute. It's anything to thumb a nose to the stupid little upstarts in the North East, anything to rub it in, anything to have a go. They've allowed Liverpool to run roughshod and call narratives left, right and centre when they're in no position to call narratives. They're in no position at all. Even an example on the BBC, apparently about how the report's written, he's got 3 years left on his contract, and somebody in the BBC writes, well, he's got 2 years left on his contract after this season. That's 3 fucking years. and so if that's how you want to play the game, we've got to be ready to just let some of that ride and just let it become noise. Because that's how so much of it is just noise. And it's noise without substance, noise without, in some cases, or in many cases, noise with a degree of hope and desperation and clutching at straws. And is this what we're going to have to put up with all summer? Fucking looks like it, doesn't it?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it at all. I just want to say, first of all, that it's been a while since we raised any money for Age UK. So if you are on Twitter and you do follow me at Steve Rave, we have put a nice little item up there, courtesy of Danny Mitchell. It is a signed Alexander Isak celebration pick from the Carabao Cup final. The bidding has started now and it finishes at 6:45. Please place your bids underneath the tweet. All proceeds go to Age UK North Tyneside for the dementia charity. So please bid if you can. Steve, that was the week that was. It's been an interesting one. I've put a poll in the chat. Was the move for Ekitike a bluff? Resounding at the moment. 35% yes, 65% no. What's your feelings on all of this?
I think that we probably were interested in Ekitike to some extent. I think the press were more interested than we were. I think it started to run, and what it did was it drew out Liverpool, who obviously had a big interest in him. The reporter that Mitch is talking about on the BBC, who is the senior football correspondent, Sam Mokel.
Is he a Liverpool fan by any chance?
And probably a Liverpool fan, yes. When you read his article, it's unbelievable. To the way that he's, bearing in mind that Ekitike hasn't signed for Liverpool. Let's get that out first. That's the first thing to mention. But he's written this article, and in it, obviously, he wants to draw a line between Ekitike and Alexander Isak. So he talks about Ekitike's record among players that are 23 and under, right? Because Isak's only 25. He's an old man at 25. But let's forget the fact that of all the players that he's going to mention now, Alexander Isak's stats are twice as good as Ekitike, but he doesn't want to mention that to Liverpool fans. So he talks about Florian Wirtz, he talks about Cole Palmer, he talks about Yamal Lamal over in Barcelona, and he explains that he is actually way above them in the stats. But that's only when, by the way, in inverted commas, when you add and combine together the number of goals and the number of assists. So that's a that's a bit.
What's the term for that now? Goal involvement, is that?
It's something crazy like that. He also mentions in his article that Newcastle must be ruining it. The fact that 3 years ago we walked away from a £20 million bid for Ekitike. Now, if I remember rightly, Ekitike made
his agent walked away with him.
Agent, yeah,
exactly, and the lad ended up going to PSG and was virtually thrown out of there because of a combination of attitude and unwillingness to actually play the part that he was presented with. Didn't want to be part of the whole setup because he basically threw his bottle out the pram and the rest of his toys immediately after he signed because he was put on the bench. But that's all forgotten about. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that we've had to put up with. That's why I put on Twitter that, it was a little bit flippant, but the longer it's gone on, the more serious I've thought about it. Yes, let's have a super injunction against some of these press people mentioning Newcastle United in the press anymore, because all they're doing is just making stuff up, rocking the boat, and as Mitch rightly says, it's pretty obvious that they're not working on behalf of their newspapers. They're working on behalf of friends within football. They're working on behalf of favours that can get from football clubs in the future. So they're playing that card. And they're doing it because it benefits the football club that they support. That's the whole top and bottom of it. Then it's not reporting; it's basically writing publicity and putting out marketing and PR stuff on behalf of a football club in the Premier League, to the detriment, in many instances, to Newcastle United, because there's always a scurrilous little remark or there's a put down or whatever. I worry where we're heading. The piece that you've just talked about Wyn Davies, for example, that was some basically student kid who's barely come out of qualifying as a journalist from college. And I presume everybody, including Craig at the Daily Mail, are on holiday, and they've left this kid on a table on his own on a desk, and allowed him to just write any old rubbish, and nobody's vetting it. Because, quite frankly, when you put something together like that, it's an embarrassment, and a total and utter embarrassment. It's a rag newspaper to begin with. I go to it for the sport. I go to it purely for the sport. I go to it because Craig writes for them. But Craig, you're going to have to get your act together, mate, and you're going to have to say something, because this is really dragging Newcastle United's name down for ulterior motives than the way that you would imagine a newspaper should act. If you've got any sway, Craig, let's hear from you, and let's get the facts about how this newspaper that you work for actually operates, because it's an embarrassment. And you know what? You wouldn't be surprised if this carries on. We'll end up in a very similar situation that we had under Mike Ashley, where he started banning journalists from press conferences and such like. If this summer's anything to go by, I think on this occasion there would be flags being waved in rejoicement by Newcastle fans if Newcastle United did that, rather than the other way around. Whereas in the past, it's been sort of condemned as Ashley trying to censor people. I think if we did it now, the vast majority of our fan base would be delighted. Perfectly honest. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, interesting stuff, George, this week. Things were a lot easier without social media, I've got to be honest. It really was. But what a week it's been. Just crazy. And it's not going to get any better. That's the thing that we want to say to fans out there today. It's, if it is getting you, because in all seriousness, right, we can laugh it off on here. And have a laugh about it and make people look stupid if we wanted to. But ultimately, it does affect people's mental health. This, George, people do actually get really sad about it. I'll not name the guy, but one guy actually came to me this week on Twitter and said, this is really affecting me mental health, and because he's so engrossed in it and doesn't know what to believe,
Well, can I start with the Wyn Davies thing first?
Go for it, George.
What they did.
I was gonna. So don't talk too much about Wyn Davies because I want to come to you about that separately. But talk about the article.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll put Wyn Davies to one side and I'll just talk about what's happened this week. To be honest, as having supported the team as long as I have and watched the way the press squirms whenever we've done anything good. I mean, people still rejoice as I do in the 50s Cup finals, all the rest of it. We never got a good word said about in those cup finals. In the first one, we got slated because we pinched Stanley Matthews their cup medal. In the second one, we got slated because we stopped Arsenal winning the double. And in the 50s one, we only won it because Jimmy Meadows got injured. What they don't tell you is Jimmy Meadows got injured because he tried to kick Bobby Mitchell into the stand. And all of that negative stuff I've listened to and watched this week. I've reminded myself about what I said after we won the Carabao Cup and after we did so well in the league and had our best season in living memory. They're scared. They're all running scared because the little club in the northeast that they're so used to kicking about is not little anymore. It fights back. It bites back. And they're rejoicing and winning things and getting ready to win more things. So they're wetting themselves. That's all it's all about. They just can't stand the notion that there's going to be a Newcastle United there for a long time now. We're not going to go away and disappear somewhere. We're going to be in the mix for the long run, for the long term. And if having a dig at this is the only way they can get a rise out of everything, well, good luck to them. So anybody that's really, really down about this, rejoice in your season you've had because you've had the best season in the club's history. And I've been doing this for over 70 years and I've never felt the way I do now about my club. And as regards the window, we've all season we've been going on about how we need to strengthen the right-hand side. It's done. It's done. And I'm quite convinced that the silence from Eddie and the team that's working on incomings, they'll be laughing up their sleeves at the Ekateke thing because it's diverted away from what they're really doing. And I'd be amazed if in another week's time there aren't some people paraded at St James's Park who we never even thought of, just like we did with Bruno and Isaac and Botman and names he'd never heard of until they were on their way to us. So rejoice in that. Don't be down it because some prejudiced and ill-founded rubbish that people who support other teams. They're not journalists. They're like MI5 working for other clubs, and I suspect maybe someone even doing it for money. I wouldn't be surprised. So rejoice in what we've got. It's going to get better, folks. It really is. I promise you that, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason really to be negative at the moment on Friday, the 18th of July, when the transfer window was open until September the 1st. I think what's probably accentuated the anxiety a little bit is the fact that Eddie, prior to Mitchell leaving, said he wanted players in early. And I think that's half the problem. The other problem is that Newcastle now don't leak stories like they used to leak stories under Mike Ashley. So information coming from the corridors of St James's is at a premium. And unfortunately, like I keep saying, every show that I do on here, more or less, when we end up talking about this, is that journalists, when there's no information coming out of a club, still have to do their job. If you're covering the Newcastle beat, you still have to come out and tell a story. You still have to go with a line. And sometimes the stories that you are coming out with might not be the story that you want to chase. It might be the narrative that your paper wants to chase or your newspaper wants to. Let's not forget that the Evening Chronicle is not controlled by a company that's based in the Northeast. It's actually based from a country further down south, which is a bit closer to some of the cartel rivals. I mean, you know, and they manage newspapers that go to those other areas. So, you know what, from our perspective, we are up against it from the start. And I just think that the fact that Newcastle's business and good business they've done in the past, again, like we've pointed out on here, where we've said, you know, look at Tonali, came from nowhere. Look at Isaac, came from nowhere. These players that Newcastle recruit are always the right character and the right ones. People then go, you know, they talk about the recruitment, which I'm going to come on to in the next topic. They talk about the recruitment and nobody knows what's going on. So, like I say every week, and I will get sick of repeating myself, I'm sure, but I say it for the best of intentions. Nobody has a bloody clue what is going on. That is why there's so much speculation. That is why there's so many stories. And that is why when Steve Hasty or Mitch or me or Stu Penman gets a little tip off here or gets a little thing there, none of it makes its way onto this show because we don't want to be the clickbait channel that lots of these other channels have become. We don't want to be the one that puts out a false rumor because 9 times out of 10, you put something out on here, it's wrong. If you put something out, it's wrong. And you're the one who gets pelters. But some people thrive off that. And that's the same with newspapers and TV channels. Nobody has to hold them accountable because that's their job. And their get out clause is, oh, well, such and such told us. Well, who's your source? Oh, I can't reveal my source. It's the way of the world. It's the way it works. So get used to it. Understand that's where we are. It's accentuated because of social media. If it's affecting your mental health, close your social media down. Come off it. You don't need it. You didn't need social media 10 years ago. You didn't need Facebook, Twitter, etc. You just went to the pub and seen your mates and had a big crack with your mates down the pub before the match and after the match, and going down to play a game of pool at the club on a Friday night or whatever. You didn't need social media. So if it's affecting you, get off it. You do not need it. So it's as simple as that, really. I'm going to have a quick break for one of the things that we do on a Friday night. So again, I always have to say this: if you are easily offended, it's probably best to walk away for 5 minutes from the screen because Tweet of the Week can be quite rude. And we always need things to give us a little bit of laugh. Plenty signed this week. Assorted scrotums, buy 4, get the 5th free. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Due to high temperatures, we will not be accepting money out of your bra. Was a sign spotted on Tyneside this week. Thank you for that. And Butcher Open, dear vegans, I've killed this cow because it was eating your food. You're welcome. Warning in the chemists: laxatives and sleeping pills should not be taken together.
Sound advice.
I like honest sign writers, lads. I never finish anything. Very funny. Anybody want a free one-night stand? There's one for you. Bottom of my street. And thanks to Jimmy for this one. Subway, tired of doing Coke? We got Pepsi. Very good. Thanks to Jimmy for this one as well. You can get some chewing gum for 60 pence. Give that a miss, I think. And if you're an animal lover, I'd give this place a miss as well. RSPCA, helping bury animals. Dear me. We want to apologise for the inappropriate message on our roadside sign that is being displayed. We are currently investigating this management. All you can eat ass, 18.99. And they said bring a dessert and they came to the party. So I took this. I nailed it.
Oh, dear.
Bang the toenail. Look like he's still creeping in every now and then. Here's one from Stephen Parker, Anthony Gordon, and the guy from Karate Kid.
All right, I can see that.
Very good. Yeah, I got a few messages like that from people. And managed to get a tan, put the cream on, forgot to put it on my legs, lads. Bit of a nightmare. But just thought I'd share that picture with you.
Oh, dear me.
I do like to sing song, guys. Here it comes. Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure extermination. Like it. Song with a Doctor Who connection. Like.
You've just broke my dream there, Mr. Wraith. I've had that song in my bloody head all day.
Aye, and it was sung well.
There you
You obviously know where it's come from because I sung it that well. Tweet of the week from Jimmy. I told the barista that I like a dark coffee, but this is next level. That's excellent, that. I tell you what, Halloween that make a roaring trade doing that, Jimmy. And this one from Jimmy as well. Lovely house design, he says. Be real, Jimmy. That can't be real. Only in America, mate. Only in America.
Wilmot Flats.
Stephen Kennedy quickly becoming the new Mark Byers. Didn't make any of his tweets over the last few weeks onto the show, but second pair of knickers in 2 days on my dog walk. Some weirdos where I live. Black pair of new and smell quite fresh, to be fair, says Stephen.
Stephen, man.
That's one I could use. And tweet of the week, that's no pizza.
Oh, very good.
Wow.
Cheers, Jimmy. When you surprise your girlfriend at a work with an engagement ring. Few jokes have made it in this week. My mate went for an interview at IKEA. The manager greeted him by saying, "Come in, make a seat."
Oh,
And I was sad to hear the owner of Dulux Paints was found frozen to death on a mountain today. Rescuers said that he needed another coat.
oh, yes.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm reading a book about anti-gravity, lads. It's impossible to put down.
Yep.
And the Harry Potter actor was in the news this week, and it was 12 points to Gryffindor as Emma Watson was banned from drag. That's speaking for the 4th time. And why do people always laugh at my name? Says this person on Facebook. I know how you feel, says this person on Facebook. I get that all the time, says this person on Facebook. And same here, says this other person on Facebook. I'm sure you can read. I don't need to read them out, but thank you for that. And Alexa, play Elvis. Caught in a trap. Hey.
Oh.
And these are Jordans. Are they fake, lads?
It might be.
Not sure what her religion is, but let us pray for her.
Oh.
And this was in Jimmy's garden, I think. It's a rare bird. I'm not sure what it's perched on. We've got one of these lookalikes. Little Richard.
Little Rich. Oh, dear.
And this is one for Stu and Mitch. Never look at your beer as half empty, lads. Look at it as you're halfway to your next beer.
That's fantastic.
It is just that tapping on your back.
It's a mantra for life.
It is. I haven't looked twice at this photo, by the way.
Yes, I would.
And the most useless things ever. Sign, not in use. Wonderful balcony. A gate that leads to nowhere and has no fence around it. And which, yeah, I think we all get the message from Jimmy Wilson on that one. Summer's close enough. Time to strut around in bikini and ankle monitor.
Oh, dear me.
And breaking news, a cheese factory in France exploded this morning. There is debris everywhere.
Oh,
Oh, deep.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
not a Steve Hasty lookalike. Day 11, the humans still don't know I adopted a cat. Oh, look at it. Look at the cat.
cute.
Isn't it nice? And never trust an electrician with no eyebrows, lads.
That's
My
true.
advice. That's my advice for the week. And I need this outfit so I can walk through my house and dust it.
Look at the state.
And what happens at bingo night stays at bingo night.
Good Lord.
Yes, good Lord. And just a friendly reminder, lads, to check each other for ticks this summer.
Yeah, you've got to check all the
Nooks and
nooks
crannies.
and crannies. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's clear to me who was the most photogenic in this picture.
Yes.
Brilliant. And they pay me to build pipes, not to move rocks.
Me.
I had no idea what to get my wife for her birthday, so I checked her browser search history. She's going to love it.
Oh.
And when you want to know but don't want to be obvious. Proof it only takes 3 1/4 inches to please a woman.
All right.
And right now they're arguing over who lost the keys. And the final one this week is this one. I picked this one out for you, George, actually. Senior citizen texting codes, George.
Yeah.
So here's a few for you. ATD, at the door. BFF, best friend fell. BTW, bring the wheelchair. BYOT, bring your own teeth. FWIW, forget where I was. GGPBL, gotta go. Pacemaker, battery low. That's a bit of a mouthful. GHA, got heartburn again. LMDO, laughing my dentures out. I love that one. OMMR, oh my massage recliner. On my massage recliner. OMSG, oh my, sorry, gas. ROF. LAG CGU, rolling on floor, laughing and can't get up. TTYL is the final one. Talk to you louder. Oh, fantastic.
ZAD, Zimmer at the door.
I like it, George. Brilliant. If you've got any more, stick them in the chat, folks. That is end of Tweet of the Week. If you've got any tweets, Jimmy, you can send them. I know you've been sending them slowly this week. That's great. Or you can send our email address, anywhatcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for bearing with us. You can come back out of the kitchen now. And a big thanks to Rob. He's donated a tenner in the chat to go towards the Malverno Fund. Rob will be popping on with his little music review in a moment. Well, 6 o'clock, which is great. Muzza says that's why I like this channel. It's obvious, ridiculous. How dare you? Okay, let's move on to a question which came in, which is in, I guess, what we're talking. Can't get away from the transfer window. It's open, and we had Ben Jacobs on last night. He got a hell of a lot of stick when I asked for questions on Twitter, which I never understand. The viewing figures he brings to the channel are ridiculous because people really like to hear what he has to say. We never get a great deal from him other than his own opinion. And as I said at the start of the program, that is what we get. Ben's opinion. He's the same as any journalist. He hasn't really got a clue what's going on at Newcastle United, but he'll give you his opinion based on the rummaging around he does. But it's always interesting to get him on. And the numbers, like I was telling the lads, over 80,000 people have watched that podcast last night. Obviously, 65,000 on Twitter, 10,000 on a variety of other social media. It's mental. And for us, it helps build our community, which is a very positive one. So for us, it's good. What I would say is the question I'm trying to find is about the deals that we do. There it's Maidstone, Junction, and Outstable. I've seen you intermittently, but you used to be in quite regularly. But I will come to your question. It's good. What does the panel think about our recruitment process? 2 summers of poor recruitment management for me. We just can't seem to act swiftly and decisively. We have a lot of players to recruit quickly. The reason I'm picking that out is because I do want to add a little bit to it. And what interests me, Mitch, is that Mark Gahey, and that's that long blown out saga that we had to go through not to get him. Whether the Ekitike thing, I guess, is quite similar because it's happened not once now, but twice with him. He hasn't gone anywhere yet. Of course, he could still end up being a Newcastle player, but more likely he won't. But what I'm saying is, it always seems that our players get leaked to the press. I'm more concerned about that than I am our recruitment process, because I think our recruitment process, although it has been limited due to the PSR problems, I think our recruitment, when we have been able to recruit, has been very, very good. We haven't signed many duffers under PIF or under Eddie Howe. But that question ties in a little bit with that. Our business always seems to get outed and put into the open, probably because of agents, maybe. Ben said, I think, it's because journalists have to do their job, and if they get a hint that something's going on, they report it. What's your feelings on our recruitment process?
There's definitely agent mischief at play, but that's not just for us, that's for everybody. I think you're comparing apples and pears to do the two summers, because we had one summer with Ashworth in place who'd already had his head turned by his mates at Man United and was thinking, oh, maybe the grass is a bit greener over there, who certainly didn't seem totally on the same page as the manager. And then another summer with Mitchell in place, who hid behind it, well, I've just arrived, and then opened the gambit with this recruitment isn't fit for purpose. And we now seem to see that he's been at odds with the manager from day one, and the manager eventually won by effectively in spite of everything. I am concerned about the fact that we still have a CEO in place who we've been told that's been leaving, and he hasn't left, he's stayed in place, and there's no sign of a replacement. I'm buoyed by the fact that they've appointed Jack Ross into the position he's been appointed into, because that gives some structure that a new director of football can come into, and also gives a literal buffer between that position and the manager. Someone who's acting as an umbrella over the top of the manager to ensure a football ethos across the board, but who could also be a sounding board for the manager separate to the new incoming sporting director. However, again, that appointment seems to have dragged on a little bit now. And it's that side of things that frustrates me. We don't really know who's in charge. We don't really know who's making the big decisions at the minute. And we've got some very big decisions to make. My understanding on the Trafford situation, I think if he's been linked with Man City, we must be close to tying it up. That's an agent player. That's somebody leaking something somewhere. I have an understanding that effectively it's fine details that's being wrapped up rather than anything significant. But then that still then leaves us a further problem with our goalkeeping room. That somebody has to sort out bloody quickly for me. So there's things that are happening that I'm more bothered about. We got made to look like idiots over the whole Gay thing, and how much of that was Mitchell and how much of that was Parish and Palace. I don't really know. But here's another thing: the suggestion that Isaac was unhappy about not being offered a new contract seems to have been put on Mitchell, saying, "No, I've looked at his contract and that's enough. Thank you very much, and I'm not going to talk to him." Now, was that the move that finally brought the hammer down from on high? The something's made the club and the chairman, it would seem, because this seems to be the driver behind it all, to decide, right, yeah, this isn't working and it's got to be severed. And I'd rather that quickly if it isn't working and we didn't have a summer of recruitment that wasn't necessarily Eddie's house. But then it's left Eddie Howe for all it's what he said he wanted. I don't think it's been helpful to him to have everything on his plate. There are too many areas where there is zero clarity about structure, lines of reporting to the board, lines of reporting within the board and the ownership structure that still remain, and still you could say remain from last summer when we desperately had to sell players to make the PSR threshold. And we know who got effectively blamed for that. Was that all on their heads? Don't know. We'll never really know. What I do see is it's these areas where we lack clarity and information. Wherever there is a void, we have this amazing ability to fill it with our own angst. Seen it yet tonight already. Somebody worrying about Opifia for the long term. I've said this before and I'll say it again very clearly. If PIF were going to walk away, they would have walked away after the first set of bids were turned down, and they would never have come back. They wouldn't have remained in the background to go through all of that to then get to this point and decide enough's enough. We've been one of the smartest investments they've made in a long, long time, and will continue to be so. We are frustrated by rules put in place to throttle us, and everybody knows that, and everybody knows what the position is. they are, I'm sure, smart enough to find a way around it. But it does get frustrating when it feels like things are moving at a glacial pace, and I understand that. I agree with that to an extent. But we've also got to get away, and again, I've said this time and time again, we seem to live in this non-zero sum world where it's a yes or a no, for it or against it. There's no room for grey areas and subtle nuance, and you can have an opinion which is one thing and another thing too, that is equally as valid. So I think we've got to be allowed to make our own minds up and equally express frustration where possible. But I do think that it would be nice to have certain things in terms of structure in place, and it would calm a lot of people down, just like that.
Yeah, okay. Steve, recruitment. I've seen somebody in the chat saying there that Eddie wanted all his own way, and yet he's come out. You know, he's done one interview where he says it's been a busy summer. He hasn't had much time off because of the departure of Paul Mitchell. Now, immediately people take that in their own way. People go, "Well, you wanted Bruno Mitchell," straight away. People are creating this myth that Eddie demanded Mitchell left. That Yasser said, "Oh yes, well, we can't lose you, Eddie, so Mitchell's away." We don't even know what went on there. We can only go with a speculation, etc.
Again, Steve, that's a perfect example of the non-zero sum world.
This is the
where
thing.
It's this or that. It's this or that. There's no room for nuance or grey areas or actually the reality is this and this. Because that equally is as a valid a point. But everything has to be either confrontational and I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's not how the world works.
Yeah. And for me, again, I feel Eddie has earned the right to be able to speak to PIF and say, I would like to work with X, Y, or Z and give it a go. And we said this at the start of the window. We said this when Mitchell left. If Mitchell's gone, let Eddie have it his way and let's see what happens, And if Eddie screws it up, if they don't qualify for the Champions League and they don't win anything next season and they have a substandard season, he could fall on his sword. That's it. But Steve, back to you, just about the recruitment. It all falls under the same topic anyway.
Yeah, it does. I mean, let's look at the lack of recruitment. I suppose we've got Elanga. That's a huge positive. That was huge. That's a player that has over the last 2 seasons at Forest turned into a much better player than he was at Manchester United. That's the first thing to say. I think Forest paid 15 million, and we've paid 55. And I don't think we've paid the top end either. I think we could have paid an awful lot more for Elanga. I think we've got a player. And I think we've bought Elanga on the up at 55 million. I know that sounds strange, but I think we've bought him on the up. We haven't bought him on the way down. It's not a player like a Rashford where we've had to pay £55 million, and that's because he's been devalued to the point that nobody wanted him, and then you would class it being a waste of money. It's not a Jack Grealish was a £100 million player, and again, anyone who buys Jack Grealish is buying him on the down, not the up. I think we've bought Elanga on the up, and that's the first positive. However, I think there's every possibility that the void that has been created, as Mitch rightly says, by the loss of Mitchell for whatever reason, by the impact earlier than that of the loss of Amanda and Mirdad, I think that rocked the club a little bit. There wasn't anyone who came into the board that kind of fitted and slotted into the role that they had. And I think that created a media void. It also seemed to quieten Jamie Rubin down for a long period of time. Whether that's purely coincidental, I'm not too sure. The rest of the board, you look at them and they're kind of faceless. There's no one that you could probably recognise walking down Northumberland Street, for example. They're not the personalities that we've had at Newcastle United in the past. They're not recognisable faces, and because of that raises the question of what do they actually do in the football club? What are the people who are there from PIF? What is their role? are they there merely to oversee? Or do they have genuine roles that are sitting at a desk doing day in, day out? The Mitchell situation coming when it did, when we obviously had that quiet 2 transfer windows, and the third one coming up was supposed to be an important one. And does that mean that other Premier League clubs will take advantage of us without a sporting director? Is it piling more pressure on Eddie? Could we look at it that way? Is it the other way around? We can't genuinely say that now Eddie's going to get the people that he wants, because the whole idea is that a sporting director and a coach, manager, whatever you want to call them, they're supposed to be working together. But Eddie isn't going to desperately take on a player that he feels doesn't fit into the pattern of play that he wants, doesn't fit into the style of play, doesn't fit into the mental sort of acuity that Eddie's looking for within his squad. He's not going to understand the pattern of play, or it's going to take an awful long time. All of these are little things, but these are conversations that Eddie would have had, you would have thought, with the sporting director. And with the sporting director away, then does it mean conversations have to restart with somebody else? Is a void created? And do other clubs take advantage? You know, I mean, in a conversation, are people going, you know what, Newcastle United don't have any shape, don't have any pattern of, you know, you're coming here, we've got a sporting director. Because these sporting directors that you're up against, with the lack of a Paul Mitchell, these are sharks. These are top of their game. The guy at Liverpool, top of his game in terms of a sporting director. I think there's also that aspect, and whether it was a personality thing, you know, that people talk about between Mitchell and Howe. What you tend to find that most of these sporting directors are more business orientated than they are the game itself. The only sort of one that you could think of that wasn't, who's an ex-player that's done very, very well, was Dougie Freedman at Crystal Palace. Jason Wilcock at Man City, at Man United, and previously at Man City, seems to be struggling somewhat, because you just look at the way that their hierarchy is probably holding him back, and in terms of who he's going for. There doesn't seem to be any pattern or any style to it. So I think there's lots of spinning plates at Newcastle at the minute, that are not helping the matter, if you like. And when you have a little void like that, when you have a little hiccup, I suppose you also look and think, well, who's running the show? You know, an absentee chairman, an absentee owner in Jamie, who's not there day to day. Mirdad and Amanda gone, Mitchell away. Darren Eales suddenly doesn't open shops and things anymore. He doesn't open. He's not there when we're doing the new shirts. We've had 2 of them so far, and I haven't seen him there, which seemed to be his forte. Very much in the press. Gone very, very quiet. And Newcastle's the worst club that this can happen to, because the void gets filled with, and I think we said it a couple of weeks ago, the void gets filled with rumour, with innuendo, with angst, with concern, with worry, because that's the nature of being a Newcastle fan, because you also always tend to think that you're only one step away from a disaster, and we're not. As Steve's rightly said, we're at the start, really. We're only 18 days into the transfer window. There's another.
If you don't mind us chipping in again, you've seen the difference in behaviour on social media between Liverpool fans and our fans in this situation. They've had years of being used to being, quote unquote, a big club. This is part of the learning journey that we're on as supporters. How do we handle this? How do we behave in this situation? Where do we go? We're not used to holding the hot hand. We're not used to being able to pull a power play. We're waiting to have a star player sold from underneath. We're waiting for the next disaster around the corner. That's what we're waiting for. Again, not to overuse the word Stockholm syndrome again. We've got locked into that mindset of thinking, and you've seen the difference in the patterns of thinking. But what's emerged from that is us getting used to having a little bit of bloody of the nose back, and that's our learning journey. We've got to learn how to behave like fans of a big club, and I would hope that in the long term we do it with more grace, and we do it with more sympathy and empathy, and we do it remembering more where we've come from and the journey we've been on. When we're turning around to clubs and saying, we'd like to have this player and this player, please, and we're making record signings, because that time will come. I'm still convinced of that. There's no doubt about that. How it comes, I don't know. I think it'll be with the dissolution of all the financial regulation eventually. But it's been very enlightening this week to see that. And also to see what an absolute bunch of snide little arseholes they are. And I would encourage anybody at St James's Park on our first home game of the season who was even tempted to sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" to not. Sorry, you've blown that, lads. I have zero time for them now, and we need to behave like fans of a big club.
It's an interesting one. I'll jump in there before I forget about that, because I genuinely think, listen, this whole Newcastle Liverpool thing is really a social media thing. I don't think it's anything other than, I've got a lot of good mates who are Liverpool fans. I know you guys have as well. I think there's been some wonderful links up with Newcastle and Liverpool fans, over the years. And I genuinely think that this is simply a social media thing. And social media is, as I've said, and I'll keep on saying it, Christ, we did Think Before You Tweet 5 years ago. We did a campaign called Think Before You Tweet. It's just a load of rubbish, the place. It's a horrible place. Faceless accounts which aren't Newcastle fans, aren't Liverpool fans, will jump in to cause trouble. There's people who are anti-Saudi who will be jumping in to have a pop and whipping things up, who've raised their heads again under different Twitter accounts. And this is what happens. It's why my social media my Twitter account is completely locked down. It's very sensible, mine. And all you see me put on there is, I put out maybe it's a sensible opinion every now and then, or an unsensible one, depending on what you're feeling. But I don't really put a great deal on Twitter. Reason being, I just can't be chewed with all the rubbish that goes with it. Mine's very locked down, my Twitter account, and that's the way I like it. And I'm the only thing I get annoyed with X about is that I'm filled. My timeline, regardless of whether I want it or not, is filled with political news, which I don't really want to know about. I don't want to know about anything that's going on in the world. My actual things that are highlighted are Newcastle United, boxing, sport, and music, and yet my timeline is filled with bodies of dead children and things like that, which is horrendous. But that's not what I go on X for. So to see this stuff that's going on about football and the banter, I just think it's a social media thing. Whether we sing "You Never Walk Alone" or not, I really don't know. It'll be an interesting one to see how things go moving forward with that. I don't think we can hold that against the real hardcore Liverpool fans. Peter Hooton we've had on the show before from the farm, great lad. There's some really good people at Liverpool, and I don't hold that against any of them. It's the social media brigade. Go on, Steve, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say what we've got a couple of things we've got to remember. That we seem to be getting it right at the bottom end. We seem to be bringing in players at under 18 level. We seem to be bringing in players under 21 level. There seems to be a very good recruitment drive being done there, which is very, very positive. These are hopefully stars of the future, stars that are homegrown, stars that we can, potential stars that can excite us in 2, 3, 4 seasons time, although it's going to be made difficult. I think that the whole void situation within the boardroom, I think it does get exploited by other clubs. I think it's very, very easy for it to be exploited. And somebody mentioned there about Silverstone doing a good job. I think Silverstone is doing his job, but his job isn't bringing in the big money that we're going to need. That's the whole gist of it. Stewie's mentioned it a number of times on the professionals over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and I agree entirely with what he's saying. The only people that seem to be putting money into the football club seem to be the fans with more shirts and more shirts and more shirts. And the deal that we have with Adidas, which is obviously the biggest deal that we've ever had. But there's a lot more major sponsors need to be coming in to support Newcastle United and to support us. What I'm waiting for, and I know that I might have to wait 2 more seasons for it, but I'm waiting for the day then when there's a name mentioned and an Arsenal or a Liverpool or a Man City or a Chelsea are going for a player, and we go in and we'll bid above and we'll snap it off them. They're the days that I'm having. Go back to the days of the Shearers, when Man United was supposed to be after him. Okay, Shearer was slightly different because he was only ever going to come to one football club. But I'm looking forward to the day when we pick somebody up right from under the noses, somebody that they have been scouting for an awful long time, and we come in and that player's there holding the shirt going, I wanted to come to Newcastle United, I want to be part of this project, not some other deadbeat project somewhere else. Am I going to wait long, Steve? I don't know. I think it might be more hope than expectation, although I think, in a couple of years' time, there's no reason why that can't be happening.
Exactly. We are running slightly behind. We will be bringing Rob in due course with his music review. But George, just your opinions on Newcastle's recruitment.
Well, I've listened to what the two lads have had to say, and there's not a lot to add. But what I will remind you about is that when Mitchell was appointed, the first thing I did was to look about who he was. He never been in the job longer than 3 bloody years. So why should it be any different when he come to us? So I didn't cry crocodile tears when he went out the door. I just said, well, thank you and goodbye. And the way he went out the door suggests that he was given the bum's rush. By mutual consent only means one thing as far as I'm concerned. There's a big hole, and I've mentioned Amanda a long time. There's no doubt that the public face of Newcastle United suffered quite a blow when her and me and dad left the club. They were always going to leave the club, though. Don't forget that. And I'd be the last person to say that we should go back. I mean, my feelings about Hugo, I better say Hugo, were like that as well, because to go back with somebody who's virtually he's turned you down and then spit his dummy out at the new club he went to because they weren't doing what he wanted them to do, etc., makes you wonder about his attitude. And the one thing we can say about the players that have been recruited while Eddie Howe's been in charge, that the all without exception have the right attitude. And if there's a problem, Eddie Howe's proved that he can put it right. How many managers would have stood by Sandro Tonali in the way that Eddie Howe has for a whole season, kept him involved with the squad, made sure he was getting the right sort of guidance and help, to the point where we now have a player who's probably one of the most loyal players that we'll ever have, and is playing his socks off for Newcastle United because of the way in which he was treated, largely by the manager. So if Eddie Howe's in charge, the thing that comforts me is whoever walks through the door will be almost oven ready for Newcastle United. He'll have had everything looked at upside down, sideways, and all the rest of it. So in terms of that recruitment, then I don't mind the silent recruitment, because I'm convinced that in a week or so we'll be all rejoicing at what Eddie Howe's managed to do on the quiet. There is a void without a proper CEO. That one I don't understand why they haven't. There's no reason to hold off. In my view, they could easily have gone on. And the fact that the current CEO is leaving anyway, surely there's a good excuse to piggyback somebody in, so that for a month or so they work together, something like that. That's not going to cost the end of the earth, but it could be a good way of getting in. And then Steve mentioned it. The guy who's doing our recruiting sponsors and all the rest of it, Silverstone. It just beggars belief. Where you know what's he doing is the question most would ask. I mean, quite often I listen to Neil and Stu.
What's he been allowed to do, George? I would say
Yeah,
as well.
that's
the other
true.
thing.
That's true. Suggesting things that would bring in money like that if somebody just bothered to ask, and it seems to be nobody's bothering to ask. So there's all of that around. So the misinformation thing, I think, is a club thing. I don't think it's just a recruitment thing in my view. As the younger ones, well, I've said on more than one platform this last couple of weeks that when I look at what they're doing, from 18 to under 23, we're knocking spots off everybody we play from the top 6 downwards. You know, what was it against Arsenal? 7-1, something like that. I mean, it just, you know, that's all good. That's all grist to the mill and very, very positive in my view. So I'm not more concerned about the communication than I am about the actual process at the moment, because I'm quite happy with the quiet window. The Gahey window was a disaster. Whoever's fault it was, and I suspect it was the Crystal Palace chairman's parish's fault more than anybody's, but it wasn't helped by Mitchell if he was involved in that, by going back and going back and going back. Example, Amanda and Anthony Gordon. There's 40 million, take it or leave it. And what happened? It took it. You know, we need a little bit of that as well to demonstrate that we are up there with the big boys and not just doing it for fun. So I'm more concerned about the communication thing than I am about the actual recruitment process at the moment.
Okay, we are slightly over halfway through the show, and it's time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Okay, a week to go until we have a screening of the League Cup final at the Tyneside Irish Centre. It is free entry. It is limited to 100 tickets. We have 38 tickets left. And you just need to go to the website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. You need to register. The final will be shown from 7:30 onwards. It'll be the final and the interviews and the lifting of the cup. And if you enter and come along, you must come along, of course, then you are in with a chance of winning the replica medal, which is on the poster there, and there it is in all its glory. So it's a replica medal in a nice little montage. You will win that. There'll be a draw on the night time, and there'll be one lucky winner. So get yourself along. There'll be a few of us there. It's going to be a good little get-together, pre-season get-together, and a chance for us to do a couple of raffles just to keep the funds ticking over for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Speaking of which, this is on my Twitter, at Steve Wraith. Get yourself onto Twitter and place a bid. The highest bidder at the minute is Alan McKenzie. He has bid £150 for that. Thank you very much, Alan. And all proceeds from that going to the charity. And just want to say a big thank you to Danny Mitchell, who has donated that tonight. You will see a link at the top of the chat tonight. It is for Game Changer, and Game Changer basically is something that is Danny's set up. I will go into that a little bit later once we've done the music review to tell you a little bit about it. But click the link, have a look, and you will see what we are talking about. Also want to say that I met up with Joe Allen today. Joe's doing well. He will be back in the new season with his podcast. We're probably going to do one a month with Joe. He's 1.5 years sober officially next week, so he's done really, really well. Well done to Joe. Great to see him. He's looking fit and well, and looking forward to getting back on NUFC Matters. He will be doing this at South Shields 9 Stanhope Street Ignition Bar, recently taken over under new management. He's doing a talk-in with Peter Beardsley on the 9th of August. So get yourself along, 7 till 11:30. Tickets there available on Skiddle. You'll be able to, I guess, be able to contact the bar director if you want to buy tickets. Tickets are tenner to see Peter Beardsley, which is a bargain. So get yourself along to that event. And lastly, before we bring Rob on, the fanzine is on sale now. Media Art, who deal with all our website stuff, said there was a glitch. So if you were trying to pay and you were trying to pay by card, that's the reason you haven't been able to pay. There was a glitch on the website. It's been sorted with WooCommerce, who deal with the financials. So get yourself onto the website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk, and purchase your fanzine for next season. 4 issues for £25. That includes postage. All profits and all proceeds for that will be able to go now to Age UK North Tyneside Dementia, because our sponsors, I'll stick them up here as usual, United Group Travel, have agreed to pay for the printing cost, which is £500. Thank you to them for doing that again. So big thank you to United Group Travel. Okay, as always on a Friday, plenty to get through. It is time to welcome back after a 2-week sabbatical, Rob and Rob. Welcome back, Rob. How the devil are you?
Very, very good. Rock and Rob, or halftime album review, as I've been calling it to myself today. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm good. Good to be back.
And here is the album that he won't be reviewing today. It's by Tommy Floyd. It's called I've Got Love All Over My Face. These are all genuine albums, which are in.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
What are you doing us today, Rob?
Today is a classic. I remember 3 years ago telling you, Steve, when I borrowed this album, the incident that happened to me. So it's Queen, The Game. It's original, 1980. And obviously you've got your re-released one that's extremely shiny. I think it must have been sponsored by Bacofoil. Absolutely, for me, there's a difference between a front man and a showman. And to me, Freddie, absolutely irreplaceable. So yeah, this is 1980. It was an 8th studio album. So I'm just going to skim over 4 songs until Talking Tune comes back. So yeah, this was the first Queen album to ever use synthesizers on it. The cover changed in the 90s on the CD version. That was original in the 80s, so there's a few different album cover variations of it. I've chose Play the Game first. This was a single. This album is full of them. It's got like a sci-fi opening sort of effect to it as well. Nice piano. Freddie brings us in beautifully, followed by John Taylor, obviously John Deacon, and Roger Taylor. Straight flat 4 beat, then power chords straight into it again. Beautiful solo by Brian May on this one again. The chorus as well. It's absolutely stunning song. I've not listened to this for a long time. I've been listening the last few days. Absolutely brilliant. The chorus, the backing vocals. It's just the key changes. It's just absolutely sublime. I was torn between The Game and Sheer Heart Attack, my two favourite Queen albums. So then I've chosen Dragon Attack, a song about drugs. I never knew that at the time. Really funky. It's sort of like a nice sort of guitar solo, drum solo, bass solo from each band member through this song, which is very unusual. And if you remember a song, Steve, or anybody, it was by a band, I think they were called The Artful Dodger, the song called Moving Too Fast. The intro to this is on a par with it. It just sort of made me giggle. But it's very experimental, especially the vocals. Again, it's classic power chords as we expect from Brian May. It's just unmistakable. Then I went for another one, Bites of Dust. To me, this has got like a Motown sort of feel to it, very funky as well. The bass line, I've chose it for the bass line. As soon as you hear it, the tone, the mix of it, the depth of it is just absolutely sublime. Goes through your rib cages, brilliant. John Deacon at his best. He's obviously pulled away from the whole band. I think pretty reclusive now. He has nothing to do with anything since the loss of Freddie, and he said that was it, nothing now. I think they were in talks for a while, but nothing ever came of it. I think he's made the right decision, personally. But brilliant song. But on this, I mean, I'm not keen on Brian May's guitar solo parts on this, but it was such a solid single. Again, I think it was just the whole song for me was Roger Taylor and John Deacon. Roger Taylor, massive influence on me as a drummer growing up. Very early 80s, his cymbal chokes, his little like 2 gaps in his hi-hat flicks is just unmistakable. And finally, a Rocket Prime Jive. It opens with Freddie singing it and Roger Taylor. Again, great backing vocalist as well. Good. They had a couple of albums as well. Song about lifestyle, rock and roll lifestyle again. Again, some sort of like trial synth effects on this one again. Again, Roger's vocals on this, very moody, very gritty. Again, the backing vocals and the harmonies on Queen are just unmistakable. And, you know, it's just, to me, if you want to join a band at primary school, let the kids put Queen on as your guide, as your mentors for me. But again, it kicks in and Roger just takes a full lead of this song, grabs it by the scruff of the neck. It's absolutely brilliant. Really heavy, really gritty, really dirty, in your face. Absolutely love it. So yeah, that's me. I've just picked 4 songs of it, but I mean, I could have picked every song on the album. The song Save Me as well. I love song. The video to that as well, the black and white sketch with, you know, the dove falling over the cliff with Brian May doing his solo. Yeah, it's very emotional. So yeah, that's me, but it's getting a 9 out of 10 for me. It's been great to listen to that again. Brilliant. Again, crazy for a little thing called Love on it. And it's one of those things, I mean, you'd say to people, oh, I like Queen, and people straight away, Radio Gaga would dress up as, you know, do the hoovering and stuff. But go back, go listen to The Game, Sheer Heart Attack, Night of Races, you know, Take the Opera, and these sort of early albums, absolutely amazing.
I'm sure at the Dubai Bags party, that's something that Mitchell ended up doing. Anyway, Rob, thanks.
That's my usual Sunday morning, that, man.
I can imagine it.
I was just going to say, Rob, I think the influence of John Deacon on that album can't be forgotten, because he was very much into, by that stage in his career, he was very much wanting to play a little bit more disco, a little bit more funk than Queen, who had been relatively quite a heavy rock band. Certainly Queen 1, Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack. And as it evolved, I think it kind of suited Freddie a little bit more. But I don't think John Deacon got the credit he deserved for his role in that that little aspect of Queen. And I think it was also, if I remember rightly, Michael Jackson was very much into Queen by that particular point, and he obviously became very popular in America, but it was more the funky style of what they were producing that sort of enthralled. I mean, having said all that, I mean, Queen was the first band I ever saw at Newcastle City Hall back in '75.
Nice.
So they've got a big spot in my heart as well. You know.
Yes.
Tremendous band.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
and you're
there as well in '85.
And you're allowed to guess why they were called Queen. You're allowed one guess each, but yeah, it's obvious. So unbelievable, irreplaceable Freddie Mercury. It sort of hit me when he passed. It really did, because it's icon to me. First album I ever bought, Steve, was Sheer Heart Attack.
Right.
Of my own money. First album I got was Yes, Fragile. First album I ever bought my own money was Sheer Heart Attack. Still got it. What an album.
It is.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Rob. We will be bringing Talk of the Tune back soon. We're starting to get into the pre-season now, so it won't be long. I'll be in touch with Sid, and it'll be normal service resumed. So thanks for that, Rob. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, mate.
Thank you, gents. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Great to have him on. It is now time just to point out to you the game changer. The link is pinned at the chat. This is what Danny Mitchell does these days. He donates some wonderful memorabilia for us to raise money for Age UK, but this is his business, Game Changer. He's got a Sam Fender signed framed stunning Tune shirt display, which is up for auction. So that is the first thing. And he's also got a cash prize of £250. So get yourself on Game Changer competitions and click the link. Good luck. But that is Game Changer. It's something a little bit new that Danny's trying. Good luck to him with that venture. And as I say, for us to advertise that for him, all we've asked for is this picture, which is available on my Twitter to raise money for Age UK. So get bidden. You've got 20 minutes left, still at £150 with Alan McKenzie in the chat.
You should put the link to that on the Sunderland chat board ready to go. I'm sure you get a very rational and normal response off there.
I'm probably banned from there because I'm usually talked about in uncomplimentary ways, it should be said. Okay, George, we're going to come to you now just to give you an opportunity to pay your tribute to the late, great, mighty Wyn Davies, who passed away yesterday. I had the pleasure of meeting Wyn a couple of times when I was a lot larger, shall we say. And there's me with him and Pop Robson. Great do. That was at the at St James's Park. The Fairs Club put a do together with all of the team, and that was the night that I managed to get a chance of seeing the trophy, which was absolutely fantastic. We also did a talking with him. I'll never forget this. We did a talking with him, and he basically told a couple of good stories. He wasn't very competent speaking in public, believe it or not. He didn't do a lot of talkings, but we managed to get him to come and do one. And he started telling this story about this incident that had happened to him, which involved him drawing things on a bit of paper. And we ended up with this, which was hilarious. I mean, I don't need to explain what this ended up being, but it was honestly, you had everybody in hysterics. No, I mean, Gibbo hadn't got a clue where he was going. Joe Allen didn't know what on earth he was witnessing, but this was hilarious. It really, really was. He was such a funny man, such a great man. Not somebody I ever saw play, obviously, but just somebody who, really does have a place in the heart of many Newcastle United fans, George.
Yeah, and I've got to say a big piece, as far as I'm concerned, at mine. I mean, we chased him for 2 years before we actually signed him, and it was clear that why Joe Harvey wanted him. He was such a threat in the air. And when I hear them talking about him in terms relating them to Manchester City, Manchester United, even Bolton Wanderers, he made his name with Newcastle United. He was Wyn the leap year. He was the mighty Wyn. You know, Malcolm talks about singing songs about him when he first joined. Well, it didn't take the fans long to sing "It Ain't Seen Nothing Like the Mighty Wyn." Almost immediately there he arrived. And he had such a warm reputation with the fans and with the other players. A gentle giant, a big guy who was well thought of as within the club. And as his nicknames say, and his legend says about him being able to rise well above everybody else to head the ball. And might I here go on to one of my other things about pundits on professional football these days talking about how they have to use their arms to jump high. Well, Wyn Davies never broke any noses with his elbows because he was of an age like some of us that where he was taught to jump high with his arms down by his side, so he didn't get blown up for a foul. Because in his day, if you lifted your arms above your waist, it was a foul, and he perfected that in such a way that he could outjump anybody that was there. The interesting thing about him is that the season before we signed him, we were challenging to win the league, and Bolton were the other team that were doing it. And our centre half at the time was Big John McGrath. And the fans were absolutely terrified at what Wyn might do to our push to win the league. In fact, Big John McGrath cured the nerves by giving Wyn a dead thigh in the first 10 minutes of the match, so Wyn could hardly walk. Never mind leap. So he was a bit of a passenger, but that was John McGrath and his style. But he became such an icon, such a player, and always there, and always fit and ready to play. And as I say, again in Europe, the Europeans just couldn't handle them. I think it was Inter Milan that were played. Every time the Wyn went up, the goalkeeper was chasing the referee for a free kick because claiming that he was climbing and all this sort of thing. He just frightened them to death, like he did so many in our league as well. But as I say, the big thing is a gentle giant, a real gentleman, and someone who was happy to give his time to younger players. I understand, because it's just beyond my era, and I was disappointed at some of the stuff in the press because it didn't just disappoint Newcastle United. I thought it actually must have disappointed Wyn's family as well, because it wasn't really representative of what he'd done.
No.
But he was Win the Leap, the mighty Wyn, they all names that he responded to. And if you see them play, you could understand why. Because he could jump at least 1 foot, sometimes 2 foot higher than any defender. A brilliant player and a lovely, lovely man.
Wonderful tribute. Anything to add, Steve?
Just that I was lucky enough to meet Wyn at one of those First Club events, and I also think you were there actually. And
I was, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we went to a couple down at Howden, didn't we, at the club as well?
Yeah, we met the other striker who passed away, the FA Cup winner,
George Keeble.
Vic Keeble.
Vic Keeble, yes. And what always impressed me whenever I went to any of those twos where there was either Vic or any of the First Cup winning team was how humble they all were.
Yeah,
how they talked so beautifully. There's the photo there. There's us and Vic. Brilliant photograph that, Steve. I wonder where that shirt is now.
Where's your you've got white hair, Steve. That doesn't even look like you. Definitely just look like me.
That must have been about 10 years ago, Steve.
I'd say 2011, 12-ish.
Yeah, easy. But they were all humble. Every single one of that squad were humble. They were so sort of humble about what they'd achieved, and we were so in awe of what they'd achieved. But you got the impression that they loved wearing that black and white shirt, and that was the one thing about them. The honour to wear the black and white shirt. They had never forgotten about it. All those years later, all the clubs that they played for since then, they all had a great tone about the football club and about the rest of their teammates. You know, they talk about honor among thieves. This was honor among heroes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Mitch, any thoughts on Wyn? I mean, obviously you made your point quite eloquently, as you always do earlier on, about the reporting, which was absolutely ludicrous, making him out as a Man United legend.
Yeah, but we know the truth, and thankfully his family does too. And I had the honour of meeting him prior to that with the first club, going down to meet him. I think it was in Wigan, where he lived. And in that more intimate setting, he actually came out of his shell, become much more of a raconteur. He does tell a good story, but he needed to be comfortable with that. But one thing that came out of the times I met him was he was desperate to see that baton passed, to not be part of the last team that won something for Newcastle United. And I'm delighted that he did see that happen. So, that's something that I know would have thrilled him to see us win that cup, and for him to no longer be part of that last winning team, because he was desperate for the success for the supporters. And I think that's really, again, so many players who come to our club take the club to heart and the supporters to heart, because they know what they're playing for and they know who they're playing for. And I think Wyn absolutely typifies that.
Steve, can I quickly... people keep saying to me about how to compare the 50s to the success and the Carabao Cup and all the rest of it. The one thing I'll say to you, and I think you lads have seen it and all with the first Cup team, this team had a togetherness that we've got now. There's the big similarity for me, having been around a while. I can see that similarity. The lads in the 50s would do anything for each other. And particularly Vic Keeble. I've got a Vic Keeble story for when we do the 55 Cup win. They would do anything for each other, and you can see in the current squad that's the gel that binds them all together.
Can I just say as well, Steve, listening to what George has just said there about the togetherness in that team, the togetherness in the 60s, the togetherness he thinks we've got now. Last season, Hugo, I'll not mention his surname, George. Last season, Hugo scored 15 goals for his club. But believe it or not, his form only picked up when the real superstar of Eintracht Frankfurt left, and that was Marmouche when he went to Man City. He then came out of his shell, or he came out of his huff and played well. The same sort of way that it went at PSG when he was there alongside the likes of Messi and Neymar and various other superstars, and he was in his shell, or he wasn't the big man in the dressing room that he felt as he should be. So looking at that, have we dodged a bullet because we've avoided someone who thinks he has to be top dog in the club? And will Liverpool suffer that? Will the likes of Salah put up with it? Will the likes of Virgil van Dijk put up with it? And some of the other players who have been there, done it, got World Cup medals and everything. So I think it's going to be an interesting situation. So let's not dwell on what we've lost. Let's think about where we're heading.
Yeah. Good point. Good point, man. I've just seen a comment there actually, which made about the photograph of me, you, and Vic Keeble, Steve. Looks like Barry Venice in the middle. It maybe I sent the lads this off TikTok earlier on. This is funny. I'll share this with everybody now. Watch this.
Curled my hair for work this morning. Not the usual standard, but just a quick once over. Walking out the door, and my husband goes, "See you later, Barry Venison." Thanks. Can't unsee that now.
Absolutely brilliant. Love that. Thank you for that. Thanks for I can't remember who sent us it, but anyway, thank you for that. Brilliant. Just want to ask the lad's opinion about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because it has gone quiet on him. He does want to go to a Premier League club. I stuck a little poll in the chat, to be honest, and it was just to ask people's opinions. I'm going to end it now, actually. Hold on, I'll end it so we just get a full reflection on it. So the poll was, would you be happy with Calvert-Lewin coming to NUFC? No, 76%. Yes, 23%. That was 204 people replied to that in the chat today. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if it means bringing in somebody who's a number 9, who's Premier League proven, still got a little bit to offer, I would say, slightly younger than Callum Wilson. I've got to be honest, I've been honest since the start of the transfer window. With Alexander Isak being first choice, I would take him if he's reasonably priced, as in his wages. I know we can get him on a free, but if his wages aren't too demanding, I personally would, and as long as he was happy to come in as a squad player, knowing that he's going to get his opportunities as and when, I genuinely would take Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Newcastle, and I wouldn't be upset if he came. Mitch, I just want your opinion on this.
Until we went on a flight of fancy and suddenly revealed that we were quite willing to chuck 70 million down for another striker, my mental attitude was, well, we've got priorities to spend money elsewhere, and he would be a very good value addition to the squad, and bring something to the forward line that we don't have.
Yeah.
And a different option. Now we've been on a flight of fancy and shown that we potentially could chuck more money at the forward line. The greedy part of me says, yeah, let's have him and somebody else then. But yeah, essentially, you know, my mindset before this week certainly would have been, I'd have been comfortable him coming in as a replacement for Wilson. Yeah, and I don't see why I should change on that just because we revealed that perhaps there's plans to spend bigger elsewhere. I think he would bring still something Premier League proven, something that we don't have. He can play as a front man. He can play out wide. He's certainly on his game better in the air than some of the options we've got. And so certainly could bring something different and is Premier League proven. And I think that seems to tick a lot of boxes for Eddie Howe. And if it does for him, it does for me.
And he seems to be the right character. That's also the key. There seems to be a hell of a lot goes into this. You know, is he the right fit for the dressing room scenario? You know, I wasn't disappointed about Pedro going to Chelsea, and having seen his reaction to a fairly meaningless game on the pitch. I think he'll spend more time suspended than anybody than anyone else. So I'm, you know, listen, I would much rather have a proven striker who comes in, who's young, who's fit, who's eager, who's keen, who wants to do well for Newcastle and is happy to be number 2 to Isak or play alongside him when Eddie decides he can play 2 up front. But I genuinely think that if the options start to be limited or diminished or priced out of our line, I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still a good option. A lot of people saying he's injury prone, yeah, but he's not going to be playing a great deal, and hopefully he'll be able to get fit with Bunce at the club. You know, Bunce can maybe get to the bottom of his injuries. And the backward step, Ty, it's replacing Wilson. That's what it's doing with somebody who's a couple of years younger and who can still probably play in the Premier League when he's fit. That for me is where we're at the moment. We aren't at that position where we can go and pay 250 grand a week wages to somebody who's sought after by Man City, Man United, Liverpool, whoever, you know. So really, DCL, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I would take a gamble on him if he's going to be somebody who comes in and helps the squad. Steve,
I think a lot of the criticism that fans throw at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as well as the injury situation, is that ridiculous GQ photograph system setup that he did, where he was wearing a dress and that or a skirt, and people immediately latched onto that. It was, and that's silly. It's silly to think that alone would make you consider Dominic Calvert-Lewin not the right player for Newcastle United. The lad's played, I think, 249 games in the Premier League. He was Everton's top goal scorer. He has struggled with injury. The injuries that he's had tend to be an injury that he's then played through and then been out for a longer period of time than necessary. I think he damaged a toe, broke a toe, and he played on with it for a while. And then that, what would have kept him out for 6 weeks, kept him out for like 15 weeks. I think he's had hamstring problems that have been exacerbated by coming back early from likes of a toe injury or an ankle injury. And that's what tends to happen when a player's out for a long period of time. They then start to pick up these muscle strains and such like. I think that he's got the experience. I think he's got the mentality. I think he's got the talent, and I think he's got the self-confidence that that comes with a player who at 29, who's been released from Everton, where he's been for a long period of time, and has something to prove. And I think he could be a very, very useful addition. I think you're right, Steve. We don't want to be paying over the odds in terms of a ridiculous salary. And if the lad is looking to play first-team football, and I believe he still even has aspirations to get back into the England squad, he's going to have to be fit. He's going to have to play periods of time getting games if that's where he wants to head. So it's very much up to him. But I think he would fit into the Eddie system. So I wouldn't have any problems if Newcastle United announced between now and the end of the transfer window that's who they were bringing in. I hear names rattled around out of European leagues, and I just think, this is just Football Manager or something like that. People are just plucking names out of a hat. Got no idea what these players will be like. So I'd rather we did that than try and scour the earth for someone that we haven't a clue about, but some of us might pretend we know everything about.
George?
Oh, short and sweet for me, Steve. If Eddie Howe says that he can use them and fit them into what we do, that would be good enough for me, because there'd be two beneficiaries. The team would, because he's powerful in the air, which we don't necessarily have up front at the moment. Although we have some good headers of the ball, but he is outstanding when he's on his game. And the other one was, the other beneficiary would be him, because I suspect if he came, even at 29, I'd be surprised that isn't a thing that Eddie Howe and his team and Bunce, in terms of the injuries, could make his life a lot easier. So Eddie Howe says he fancies him. I wouldn't be again that. I'd be quite happy with that. But then, of course, remember, guys, I'm the greedy little duck. I want the other centre forward as well.
Yeah. Listen, and yeah, we need you need four strikers really to be a competitive team. So Mark Richie was asking where does Asula fit in? Well, he fits in because you need four strikers really. You need backup in all positions, and that's what you need. Andy Davies, in answer to your question, you need to go back to the start of the show when we finish. Mitch will tell you all about where he got his top there. Duncan Ferguson wore a kilt, didn't do him any harm. Nobody would argue with him, John. And lots of people saying no thanks to DCL, which listen, I understand everyone's entitled to opinion, but for me, I don't think it would be a disaster if he did come in as part of the squad. Last question, we'll give it to Gary Milligan. He says, "Can I ask the panel, did the top six come out and say that they wouldn't deal with Newcastle when we got took over, or have I dreamt it?" Did he dream that? They didn't say they were never going to deal with Newcastle. Then maybe they did behind the scenes, Mitch.
Don't think it was an open thing. But I've been remiss tonight, by the way. I must say, happy birthday to Steve Bennett.
Oh yes, happy birthday, Steve.
Happy birthday,
Steve.
He's over in Dubai with his family from Saudi for the weekend, so I'll catch up with him at some stage this weekend. But happy birthday, mate. And here's to many more. Did they say it openly? No. Is it something that's been whispered behind closed doors? You start to wonder. But one thing, when people are getting worried about potentially PIF putting sponsorships into, say, Tottenham's ground through an associated company, or doing deals with Chelsea over something, that's called leverage. And hello, Tottenham, do you remember when you needed sponsorship and you needed help with the ground? Well, there's a vote coming up and we need your help with that. If you don't think that works two ways, you're on another planet. You're on Earth too. You can either win friends and influence people, or financially influence what you can. And if that's genuinely been something, and I can understand why people feel that that could be something that was tacitly agreed behind closed doors, but with a few clubs. Certainly, there's never been anything in my mind that I've seen publicly to say that, and I think that would be dangerous if any of them said that publicly. I think you'd definitely be in cartel territory, and I think you'd definitely be in lawsuit areas. But whether that's something that's been a gentleman's agreement between certain individuals and certain clubs, nothing would surprise me, because I thought I'd seen it all when we went through the takeover. But actually, some of the stuff that's come afterwards has been as shocking and as pathetic. And it's why we get angry sometimes about you really wish Piff would take the gloves off and have a damn good go. But we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Kieran Maguire recently made some sort of insinuation about a secret lawsuit. Now, what the hell that was all about, and who's involved with that? Is it us? Well, you start to think, well, who else could it be? Because everybody else seems to do it from the rooftops. Everybody else seems to get the marching band and the hats and the banners out. And, you know, look what Marinakis is doing at Forest. He's letting everybody know what the hell he's doing and how upset he is about this, that, and whatever. So I find it very fascinating. But I don't think there was ever a public saying of something like that, because if there was, I think they'd be in court.
Yeah. Steve, thoughts on that? You know, do you think that's the situation?
I think individually the clubs all wanted to make it difficult for Newcastle United. I think collectively they when they brought in the Newcastle rule, there's the first inkling of, you know what, we're gonna nip this in the bud. We're gonna do it together. Where they were gonna stifle us at every possible opportunity. I think that's still going on to a certain extent. I think they got panicky about third-party transactions when the Saudi Pro League started, and they all wanted to clamber and sell players to them, but were panicking that we were then going to loan the players back. I think Neves from Wolves to Saudi and then coming back to us was the one that really got them panicking, because they saw that as the start of something that never ever materialised. So I think behind the scenes there was a lot of to and fro, and there was a lot of panicking. And I think you're right, Mitch. They wouldn't come out and directly say something, but I think collectively they have worked together in a way that they feel probably won't affect them. But as I'm sure Keith Patterson would say, if there was an anti-competition case brought by the fans, we would wipe the floor with them. But it would just take far too much money to do it in the first place, £2-3 million. I think Kieran Maguire actually did say on his latest podcast something very similar about when somebody raised the point of anti-competition, and he was talking about 5 years, a case that would last 5 years, and basically if fans did go down that path, the Premier League would, with all of their vast revenue, everything they can to kick it in the long grass for as long as they could. So I'm sure there's things going on, and I'm sure if we're willing to spend half an hour, 45 minutes going back through Google, would be able to come up with some cases and some examples and some words that have been said by individuals. But I think we would struggle to find a collective announcement from the Premier League or from the top six working in concert.
George?
Well, You'd be naive to think that they're not doing something after the struggle to keep out of the bloody league altogether, that they were going to go away. Yeah, I mean, you'd be absolutely naive to think that nothing else was happening. But the other thing is every time they try and stop us with the Newcastle rules and every bit of it, just little bits of the Manchester City thing keep dropping off. You know, third-party evaluations, unlawful. This and that, unlawful. Not just wrong, but unlawful. And the deeper they get into that mire, as I've said on here, often enough, once big lawyers start using words like unlawful, what is a civil case at the moment and would involve civil damages? Once the word unlawful is involved, it becomes a criminal case. And can you see Richard Masters volunteering to go to Wormwood Scrubs? Because I can't. He's not that sort of person. You know, he'd put his head above the parapet so far, but he's not going to get the bloody thing shut off. So I think to think that they're not doing things in the background, to think that they're not being difficult. Look at the Liverpool thing with Isak at the moment. That's all surely part and parcel of the same thing. It's how to deny the new boys, Newcastle United, doing what they want to do, and I agree with the lads. If somebody really wants to have a go in court, in competition, all the rest of it, I've got to say I don't agree with the 5-year thing. I don't agree, because the first thing I would be doing was asking for disclosure of all the emails between the league and the Big Six while all of the takeover was going on. I suspect that would unearth an awful lot of lovely stories and probably be people bailing out all over the bloody place. So no, I don't think they would be stupid enough to admit it openly, but neither should we be naive enough to think that they're not doing it.
Okay,
you know what? This thing
Mitch.
that's broke tonight about the potential bid for Isaac from Al Hilal. If that's PIF finally losing the plot and saying, look, we've got a market value because Liverpool have said he's worth 120, so we're taking 140 and then we're going to loan him back, and you can all swivel on it because you've delivered this yourselves. I'm here for that. I'm absolutely here for that.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's going to happen. Don't think it's going to happen, but it would be fantastic if it did. I still think they will snap one day and they'll do something totally left field.
Yeah.
And whether that's waiting for something to be resolved, whether that's why there's not the ground sponsor and the training sponsor and all that stuff that we stress about isn't in place, because they're waiting for something to break. And then when it does break, oh boy, it'll break. It'll be if the floodgates open. I dream of that, but whether that's the reality, I just don't know. But it's part of this frustration that we have, that we know we're being throttled. We know we're being deliberately throttled from as many different places as possible. So if there is a tacit agreement between certain clubs to not deal with us anyway, or if they do deal with it, they don't deal with it on a fair and equitable basis, nothing would surprise me.
Great stuff, great show, as always. Thank you to everybody watching. 1,600 of you tuned in tonight live. Those of you who are watching on Twitter, please jump over to YouTube. Just search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. And let's finish off with a little bit of Elliot. Me and my wife were talking names for our baby. She said, I want something original. I said, how about Werther's?
Oh, dear.
Very good, very good. We are back live on Sunday with the professionals. That will be at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, we've got another one of those book interviews. I think it's David Kelly. I can't remember rightly, but it will be on at 6 o'clock. I will be in Glasgow, so no live show tomorrow. But yes, it will be back 5 o'clock on Sunday with Mitch and with Stu, with the professionals. Thanks for everybody for watching. Don't forget, get yourself on the Game Changer. Go and support that. And the winner of the picture tonight, let me just double check. Let me refresh my Twitter account and just make sure nobody else has bid before I announce it and everyone goes, hold on a minute, I'll bid. Is Alan McKenzie. Well done, Alan. £150 in the bank for Age UK, North Tyneside Dementia. Thank you, Alan, for your support. Sort out the payment as usual via PayPal if you can, and we will see you all live Sunday. Take care, lads. Have a good weekend.
All the best.
Everybody. Thank you.